Hey everybody, welcome to Reboot. We are so excited to have you. Before we get into some of the meat and potatoes of our session, I want to introduce all of us who are going to be helping to lead and guide us week in and week out through Reboot. Way down here I have Cheryl. Next to her I have Brian. Over here I have Jose. And my name's Evan. And we are going to be leading specific topics each session around one theme, one topic: trauma. You know, some of us, we have experienced trauma our entire lives. Maybe we were abandoned or abused as a child. Maybe we were neglected by those that we counted on. Or maybe we were surrounded by addiction, or maybe even in and out of homelessness. And the terrible things that we experienced, they have deeply affected who we are and how we interact with the world. For us, trauma isn't confined to our military experience. Rather, our military service exposed and aggravated old wounds that we thought we had learned to ignore.
Others of us experience trauma because of our military service. Maybe we went through a rough deployment, a tragic accident, a career-ending injury, or sexual abuse at the hands of another service member. Now, every Veterans Day and Memorial Day, we're unsure how to feel, torn between feeling proud of service and wondering what our life would be like if we had never raised our right hand. We find ourselves growing increasingly weary of the fight.
That's right. And you know, one thing is for sure. The battle that you're facing right now is likely one of the toughest challenges you'll ever encounter. It's safe to say that you are in the fight of your life.
That's right.
But you won't remember this as the fight of your life solely because of its difficulty. No. You'll remember this as the fight of your life because of your incredible come from behind victory.
Right.
It will be the stuff of legends. Your friends, your family will look back on these 12 weeks and remember how you gave it your all, how you kept swinging, even when the enemy had you up against the ropes. They'll talk about the courage you displayed as you went to the darkest places of your trauma, how you fought through the fear and the tears to emerge stronger than ever.
Woo.
And here's the best part: you won't be alone.
Take a look at the people to your left and to your right. They're not just random folks who happen to show up. No. They are the team that God has handpicked to help you win this battle. They may not be or look like the fighting force that you've assembled in your mind.
Right.
But God sees something special in them that you don't.
Right.
Unique gifts that they will share with you the moment you feel like giving up.
That's right. Some of you may have the gift of endurance, showing all of us how to persevere when things seem impossible. Somebody else has the gift of peace, a person who brings a calming presence when emotions start to spiral. And others of you, you're going to be the people who step forward and lead by example. You're going to be the people who show vulnerability when it would have been easier to stay silent. But regardless of the gift that you will bring to this group, the fight will require all of us.
That's right. And let's make something clear from the start. Our role as a group leader is highly overrated. After all, we can't rescue you. We can't save you. We can't heal you, even if we try. All we can really do is provide some guidance and create a space where we all work together toward healing. But it is each of you that will ultimately determine how much healing you get from this course.
That's right.
Your trust in one another and trust in the process will be vitally important. The challenge is, y'all don't know each other. And trauma makes it even harder to trust others, let alone strangers. You might be here tonight not sure what to expect. Maybe doubtful if Reboot will even help, or if it's any different than everything else that you've tried that hasn't worked. And if that's the case, you're not alone. In fact, most people who come to a military reboot, we fall into the same trap. And usually you can place them into 3 categories. They were dragged into Reboot by someone who loves them. They drugged somebody they loved because they didn't know what else to do. Or yeah, they showed up willingly, but only after trying and failing at everything else. Here's what I want you to know. Your skepticism doesn't scare us. Your doubts don't worry us. Because since the start of Reboot, we have seen more than 20,000 people walk into a course feeling the exact same way, and we have seen how healing has taken place.
That's right.
If they were sitting here right now, they would tell you Reboot works if you let it. They would tell you to engage from the very start and trust the process. Processes in the military are governed by standard operating procedures, SOPs, and SOPs are worthless. They're designed to ensure the safety and success of every mission. But at Reboot, we are on mission, and our mission is to help you overcome trauma. So each of the next 12 weeks, we'll work together toward that mission by walking through the curriculum step by step. While we will absolutely provide support, don't be fooled. We are not a support group in the typical sense that we just come and make each other feel better. There is structure. Rather, the course has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end to each and every session. During our discussions, there will be some SOPs in place to make sure that we can accomplish the mission that we're set on. And throughout this course, we'll pause to give you time to reflect on what you just heard. Actually, let's take our first pause right now and take a second to read through all of these SOPs as a group.
In addition to these SOPs, there are some tools we'll be using. First is your field guide. Your field guide is much more than a workbook. It's a tool for documenting your healing journey, and you'll use it every time we meet. Next, there's an online tool called MyReboot. This online hub offers extra resources and tools to support you in healing from your trauma throughout these 12 weeks and beyond. We're going to take a minute and help you set up your account right now. Press pause and follow the instructions you see on the screen. First, you'll find a welcome survey located in the Before You Start section of the Military Reboot online course. The purpose of the survey is to evaluate and improve our courses, and we need your help to do that. The survey is fairly short, anonymous, and none of your course leaders will have access to your feedback. If you haven't completed that survey yet, please complete this welcome survey before we meet next time. You'll also find a weekly podcast called the Midweek Check-In. Each week's check-in builds on what we've covered in the lesson and prepares you for what's in store for the following week. This week, we encourage you to go to the Week 1 section and watch or listen to the first Midweek Check-In podcast and answer the brief questions listed in your field guide. Before we go any further, let's pause and make sure you can find the welcome survey and the first Midweek Check-In. One of the most common reasons people don't finish Reboot is because they feel like they don't qualify. They hear us talk about trauma and they think, sure, I've experienced some painful things, but I'm not sure I'd qualify them as traumatic. That's fairly common and is partially what makes trauma so destructive in our lives. After all, if we can't clearly define what trauma is, then how are we supposed to heal from it? By its most simple definition, trauma is a deeply disturbing or distressing experience or series of experiences. If you have been to war, experienced abuse, were neglected or abandoned as a child, lost a loved one, survived a natural disaster, or even lived in close proximity to someone who has experienced trauma, you're in the right place. Trauma doesn't discriminate. White, black, military, civilian, gay, straight, Christian, Muslim, or atheist. None of us is outside the reach of trauma. According to the Sidron Institute, 3 out of 4 adults have experienced a traumatic event in their lives, and most of them will never truly heal.
That may be true, but it won't be true for you. You see, you will heal.
That's right.
That's because you are taking action. You are doing something about your trauma when so many people do nothing. Healing from trauma ends in empowerment to move forward in spite of our past. It ends in empowerment to help others by sharing our unique story. In the military, you'll often hear service members refer to situations that are really messed up as being FUBAR. Just in case anyone in the group isn't particularly familiar with this term, this is an acronym of FUBAR. It's an abbreviated way and a cleaned up way of saying something is messed up beyond all repair or beyond all recognition. Nope, that's what it means for today's video, right? And trauma, it can make us feel this way, can't it? Right? It can impact all of us. As someone once said, we're tore up from the floor up after trauma is how it can feel. It impacts our minds, it impacts our bodies and our souls and our spirits. In a relentless attack, trauma lays siege on our self-esteem, our trust in each other, even our entire emotional command center. Trauma is as elusive and as tough to defeat as any enemy could be.
Time alone won't heal you. Faith won't fix you. Medicine alone won't mend you. And living life alone will only make it worse.
But it isn't, FUBAR. Trauma didn't break you. You are not broken.
Right.
You're wounded. And wounds can heal if proper steps are taken. And here's the great news. You've already began taking steps towards healing by showing up to this group. That is truly amazing. Great job on taking those steps.
But let's talk about what a wrong step might look like. A step in the wrong direction would be to attend this first session, decide it's not helpful, and never return. That's because trauma isn't a little paper cut that we can stick a Band-Aid on and call it good. Healing from trauma requires focused effort over time. It requires a series of intentional steps in the right direction. And we want to walk through those steps together. So before you decide if Reboot isn't right for you, give us 3 weeks. If at the end of those 3 weeks you don't feel like continuing, you are free to step back and focus your energy elsewhere. Fair enough? We don't think you'll want to leave after the first few weeks because Reboot has been helping military families for more than a decade. And year after year, Reboot participants see significant decreases in anxiety, depression, pain, isolation, and hopelessness. They also experience increased gratitude, self-esteem, well-being, connection, and purpose. Do you want any of that? It wasn't impossible for them, and it isn't impossible for you. But we aren't here to sell you on the idea. We are here for no other reason than what we care about, and that is you. And we want to help you find true, lasting healing. We can't promise that all of your symptoms will get better, but we can promise that in spite of your symptoms, you can live a life that is full of joy and freedom. Completing Reboot may be one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but it will be worth it. What are you hoping to get out of your time with Reboot? If there were absolutely no limits, what incredible changes would you love to see in your life by the end of this course? Feel free to dream big here. After all, you're investing your time. So what's your ultimate goal? Let's take a moment to chat and share those thoughts.
Look one more time at the people to your left and to your right. Your dedication to this Reboot course involves more than just your personal journey through trauma. You also share a responsibility to them as fellow veterans and military family members. You raised your right hand to defend people that you'd never meet. But today, let's ask this: what will your commitment be for the person seated beside you? Will you stand up for them? Will you let them stand up for you? Will you commit to the hard work? If so, let's get started. We believe that you'll emerge from this battle stronger than ever before. We believe that together we will overcome trauma and embrace a brighter future. We'll see y'all next week.